Hello history fans and welcome back to the podcast that helps you learn a little bit of history. Today we're debunking the myth or the conspiracy theories that the devil or Merlin or aliens built Stonehenge. If you're listening, don't forget to follow the podcast and download to listen on the go. And if you're watching, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into some history. First, let's approach those conspiracy theories. We'll start with the aliens, a suggestion that I think is lame, because it's the most easy. Oh look, this crazy thing exists that we don't quite understand. Aliens did it. Because those stones are so huge and heavy and there's no evidence of how the stones were moved to that monument. Of course, people start to think, alien. I don't think huge amounts of explanations are needed for this theory because I just hope there's not, but the theory did come from a book by Erich von Däniken called Chariots of the Gods? In 1968, where he claimed that Stonehenge and other ancient monuments were built by aliens, and it was a popular theory at the time, but has since been disproved. Similarly, it's also said that lots of the huge ancient structures were built using knowledge that was passed down from godlike aliens to mankind. Slightly better than straight up saying it was aliens, I think. At least the humans built it using the incredible knowledge in that version of the story. Another theory blames the devil, and I think it might be an Irish legend. Basically, an old woman owns the stones in Ireland, but the devil wants them, so disguises himself and says that she can have as many gold coins as she can count during the time it takes him to move the stones, if she lets him have them. So of course she says yes, and then he instantly, magically moves them to England and she is left with nothing. And then in England the devil says no one can guess how many stones are here, but a friar guesses correctly, so the devil throws a stone at him which hits the friar in the heel and dents the stone. Not sure how a stone of that size is dented and the friar's okay, but there we go. That stone, though, is now called the heel stone, and it sits near Stonehenge rather than as part of the circle, I believe, and it marks the position of the rising sun during the summer solstice. Then we have the Merlin theory, which I quite like because I like folklore tales and the general Arthurian legend. In this story, Merlin magically transported the stones from Ireland, where giants assembled them. The story comes from good old Geoffrey of Monmouth, a writer from the 12th century, who you might know for his history of the kings of Britain. He says that in the 5th century there was a massacre of hundreds of noble Britons by the treacherous Saxon king Hengist. So there was a giant monument built in their honour, possibly by the king Aureoles Ambrosia. He wanted to use the Giant's Ring, a stone circle that was already constructed in Ireland by giants who had brought the stones over from Africa because of their magical properties. So the king sent the wizard Merlin with an army to get the stones. Sadly, of course, we know that it's a prehistoric monument, so not one of Arthurian legend, but I quite like the story. There's other theories that say giants did it as well, that are very well in keeping, in fitting with folklore again. In this different folktale story though, it's specifically built by the Nephilim, the race of giants conveniently wiped out by Noah's flood. This is the theory of giants that's actually backed by historical evidence, as the oldest known depiction of Stonehenge comes from Brut, or Brute, a medieval history text from 1100 that shows Merlin being helped by giants when building Stonehenge. Alternative giant stories say that the stones themselves are the giants who lived there and were suddenly turned to stone while dancing in a circle. Of course, how convenient. In this case, it's said that the earliest recorded name for Stonehenge was the Giant's Dance. Other claims come from the 1500s, with Thomas Eliot reportedly finding a 14-foot skeleton a few miles south of the site. So that legend would say that the circle was built by a giant tribe called the Kangic or Kangic giants. There are other legends that feel slightly less like conspiracy theories, like it was built by invading Danes, or it's actually the ruins of a Roman temple, so less magic involved, so it's slightly more believable. But the stones are of course dated to further back than when the Vikings and the Romans were in Britain. So let's move on from the conspiracy theories and we'll talk about how and then why. So it's said that the first Stonehenge was in Wales, and the one we know in Wiltshire was a second-hand monument because archaeologists found evidence that the stones used to create Stonehenge were used previously in Wales, and the holes that the stones came from in Wales are dated to between 3400 and 3200 BCE, whereas Stonehenge in Wiltshire was created around 2900 BCE. More research then showed that over 5,000 years ago it started simply as a ditch and an earthen bank. Wooden posts were added in and then replaced in 2600 BCE with 80 dolerite bluestones from Wales that were rearranged at least 3 times before then being replaced with the sarsen stones we see now that weren't necessarily from Wales as well. I don't know. But since some of the biggest stones weigh 50 tons and the civilizations that built it have no written records, we don't actually know how on earth they moved them 19 miles and made the monument. The wheel hadn't been invented at that point, but tests have shown that they could have rolled the stones on logs or sleigh-like things, but that's modern tests, and also very big distance to roll them, come on. Even considering it's thought to have taken over 20 million hours to construct. That's still an awful long time rolling. Interestingly, the first archaeological surveys of the site are from the 1660s with John Aubrey, who dates it to modern with the Celts, believing it to be a religious site resided over by Druid priests. So now we've made that how as clear as mud, let's move on to the why. Archaeoacoustic studies have shown that Stonehenge may have been built with music in mind because the size and the shapes of the rocks make great acoustics, amplifying things and even creating some audio tricks, all of which could have been used for rituals or celebrations. The sound changes the ancient people or prehistoric people would have felt when entering the circle has been said to be comparable with the acoustics and just like general environment change that we might feel when walking into cathedrals now, which makes sense if we think of it as a religious site, but also considering that other prehistoric stone circles are known as piper stones. It makes sense too, because whether for religious rituals or not, 2 pipers could play in the field and have certain sounds blocked by the stones, creating silent moments and just a general strange effect, like an eerie feeling all round, I'd say. Stonehenge also came at a time when Neolithic people of Britain were becoming more unified, so perhaps the construction of this monument together may have helped with that unity and created peace together, gave them a place to go to build and worship. The alignment of the stones also may have been purposely placed to track the movement of the sky, with the opening of the horseshoe lining up with the points of sunrise and sunset during the winter solstice. There's also animal remains that suggest that pigs were slaughtered in either December or January each year, suggesting an annual ritual around the time of the equinox too. It also could have been a place where people came to be healed. It's thought that the original smaller blue stones were credited with magical powers, like we mentioned. Having been dragged or even just floated across 145 miles from Wales, they must have been important. The quarry the stones came from was also identified, but then it was suggested that the stones had floated to the quarry previously, powered by Ice Age glaciers. Either way, they're magical and healing. Excavations also then found Bronze Age skeletons with signs of bone deformities, so maybe that's evidence of people going there to be healed as well. There were also more than 50,000 cremated bone fragments found, coming from 63 different people, so it's suggested to be a cemetery for the elite, with the stones being brought from Wales to mark the first graves. The bodies were found with a mace head and a bowl, suggesting religious uses as well, so maybe it was the religious and political elite that were buried there. But the 2 main arguments for the purpose of Stonehenge are that it was a holy site or a scientific observatory, both being based on the site's clear celestial influence. The alignment to the moon and sun acts as evidence for rituals linked to the solstices, but also the alignment with the stars has links with the megalithic calendar, used to track leap years and to work out dates, or to predict astronomical events like solar eclipses. In March last year, archaeologists said they had cracked the code on how Stonehenge worked, with each stone representing 1 day of each month. They kept track of the leap year every 4 years and, of course, highlighted the solstices. So it would seem the mostly agreed upon reasoning for the site is to track the sun and the moon and the summer and winter solstices, but I found the link to the megalithic calendar the most intriguing. These links all make sense to me, and I hope I've explained them in a way that they do to you, but why did it have to be so huge? What do you think the answer to the mystery is? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. If you did and you're watching, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening, please do follow the podcast and give it as many stars as you think I deserve. Hopefully 5. Thanks again. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.